Hello, my name is Gavin Foster. This is my experiment on the Stanley Park duck pond. This is a water quality test. This is for the Environmental 220 Field Methods and Technology class. My introduction. My habitat evaluation was conducted in Stanley Park in Westfield, Massachusetts. The lateral and longitude is 42.1272 north and 72.781 degrees west. This park is in relative location of Westwood State University and Highland Elementary School. The elevation of this area is about 36 meters above sea level. The climate in Massachusetts is warm, hot summers and cold winters. The day was June 8th, 2025. Human activity was moderate, with about 150 to 200 visitors in high traffic areas and fewer than 15 near the duck pond where the study was conducted. This slide is vegetation and wildlife. The types of vegetation include native forest species like eastern white pine, northern red oak, witch hazel. Other native plants include bowbush blueberries, rhododendrons, and ferns. The wildlife in this area we saw were black squirrels, ducks, geese, starlings, blue jays, and mourning doves. The objective statement of this experiment was to look at the quality and condition of Stanley Park through the lens of enforcing fines to people who feed wildlife bread, as well as enforcing fines to those who litter. So focus on how effective adding fines is to reducing harmful activity, as well as show how these impacts of feeding and littering impact the environment and the animals. This focuses on being able to identify slight changes in the behavior in animals, as well as changes in air quality, water quality, as well as focuses on human interactions in the environment. In the site evaluation, we'll be looking at the water samples and testing the pH to see how acidic the water is. We'll be testing the water with phosphate tests to see the amount of phosphate molecules that are in the water. Shows how much phosphorus and oxygen there are in the water, as well as test for the nitrates with nitrate test tabs and see how the nitrogen and oxygen are in the water. This is a list of materials. Limitations of this experiment. There is always control over human behavior. In this experiment, we cannot control the behavior of people. They're going to do what they want, even if the fine is imposed. Wildlife behavior. With different weather patterns and temperatures, behavior can be influenced. This means that it can impact the results. Environmental factors. Such things like water quality of the pond could be affected due to rain. This could produce runoff and pollution, thus interfering with the results. This makes it hard to directly link any issues to the hypothesis rather than runoff. There's always data collection bias. The research could have potential bias, and this can lead to inconsistent recording methods and affects the credibility of the results. And there's a small sample size. Due to focus of the experiment, we have a small pond area in the park and not over many sections of the park. The results are generalized to one area, and this could impact the credibility of the experiment when looking at the park as a whole rather than looking at the pond area. Some of the safety practices we see here: gloves, safety goggles, litter tongs, binoculars, waterproof boots, and sunscreen are all listed materials. A cell phone could be used for data and use of emergency. Litter tongs and litter picker is also used for sanitary purposes. Possible hazards include waterborne pathogens, chemical exposure, slipping and falling, possible debris in water. Other hazards include animal aggression, any diseases passed from animals to humans, as well as possible sharp or hazardous waste. Some more hazards: biological contamination like animal waste, poisonous plants or insects. Possible hazards include not having privacy, intentional human intervention, as well as harassment risks, where there is also a hazard if conditions are bad. Now we're going into the data analysis and conclusion. In the experiment, we started by taking a thermometer and testing the temperature. Next, we obtained a water sample. This was transported properly by cooler back to an indoor environment so that we can test nitrates, pH, and phosphates. In this experiment, we used a Hydron Spectral 1-4 pH paper. We dropped a single drop from the water sample taken onto this paper, cross-referenced with the pH color chart to see the correct pH. Next, we used 10 milliliters of obtained water in a 15 milliliter container, and this mixed with the phosphate test out. We took this container and let it sit for 5 minutes. The indication of the color showed us the amount of phosphates in the water. Next, we used a 5 milliliter of water in a 15 milliliter container and dropped a zinc tablet inside the container. Shook this and we wrapped it with aluminum foil. After 5 minutes, this cross-referenced with the color sheet to see the number of nitrates in the water. Lastly, we filled a 100 milliliter graduated cylinder with the last amount of obtained water. We put this container over an NTU marker. The results concluded that there was a pH of 7, the phosphates were around 4 ppm, the nitrates were around 5 ppm. This means that there was high amounts of phosphorus and oxygen in the water. This also means that the pH was a level good for marine organisms. The turbidity was relatively low, I thought due to the increased amount of pollen and plant growth due to increased rain would alter the turbidity from, but the NTU was 20. This is the results just demonstrated through a graph. A bar graph to be specific. On the left, we have the measured variables. We have the pH at 7, we have the phosphate at 4, nitrates at 5, and the turbidity at 20. Public health implications and sustainability. Public health implications include concerns for eutrophication due to increased nutrient levels. Scaling Park also has a neutral pH of 7 for their water. This means that the site demonstrates a close connection between environmental and public health by showing how increased nutrients as well as things like litter and bread increase pathogens and affect water quality and animal behavior. Stanley Park is a well-monitored area, so in regards to sustainability, being able to increase signage, install more recycling and trash bins, as well as keep regular monitoring of the area can help keep nutrient levels down, keep the pond at a neutral pH of 7, as well as help with the overall animal health. These are my references.